Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vault podcast. My name is Dave. Over there we have Funny the Man Dan, second.
Funny the Man, the second, yes. My father was the first.
And in the middle we have Becky
Man
Wakerley, who is Hillsong Kids.
Same last name as you, brother,
same.
sister, or...
No, we have been
Boyfriend,
seeing
girlfriend.
each other for 20 years.
Woo!
And one day I'm going to ask if she likes me.
Woo! And she'll tick yes.
Exactly. Hello, Becky.
Hi.
We're going before we get into this podcast.
Hello, Becky, with
Listen.
confidence.
Hi.
Yeah, fantastic.
We know that not every leader in kids ministry, I'm doing the spiel, Dan,
Yeah,
is
good.
been in a big staff team. In fact, more than half the churches around the world have solo pastors. But no one should be alone in ministry. So we humbly ask you to consider us as part of your team. Welcome to the Vault, where you keep all your most valuable things. And what is more valuable than wisdom?
Ooh. So, Becky, meet our team.
Yes.
And your team, and they're on our team, and it's all just one big
Love
team.
If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast, then consider checking us out on YouTube because you'll get to see our beautiful faces.
Smash
and what
the
a
like
sight.
button.
Yes, and hit the like and subscribe because you know what to do on YouTube. Today's episode is coming to you from Kidsong in Sydney, Australia, which is our annual conference, not just Kidsong, but Hillsong Conference. And we are in our Hills streaming studio, and when we say studio, we mean closet that's been converted into a
Closet.
studio.
Yes.
So fancy.
Very well, it's actually pretty fancy now.
It's
We've
doing
done some.
good.
I put some soundproofing panels up yesterday, and so that's where we are right now. Literally outside the walls of this room are a few hundred kids, I think, directly there, hanging out in one of our rooms. And there's kids all over the place, and we've been hanging out with them all week. That's where we are, and that's what we've been going on. So this episode today is a little bit about what Kidsong looks like and what we do, because we like to talk about that every year. It has been we've had some great episodes. Please check back on our previous episodes. We've been talking to Andy Kirk and also to Jess McLean, who has been with us for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we did what we called the exit interview, where we find out her wisdom after 20 years in ministry.
Wow.
Now,
That's very good. Now, speaking of Kidsong, what's that around your neck, David? I noticed you're wearing something.
I am wearing a pass. Like if there's a Hillsong Kids logo, which means you are approved to work with children and you are able to get into kids areas. And so we have Young and Free. That's if you're allowed to go to a youth conference as well. And C1 and C2, I don't know what they mean.
Conference
one
one,
and
conference
conference
two. Little fact check, little double
And-
fact check there.
And the other, our language has changed, Dave.
Oh, go on.
If you can enter Kidsong or Young and Free, you are endorsed.
Oh, I'm endorsed.
You're
That's a nice
endorsed.
language.
Endorsed to work with children.
I'm endorsed to work with children.
Really?
So that's where we are right now.
If you're endorsed, you can get through the doors. I like it.
Is that how you're going to remember the word endorsed?
I could probably just remember it using
Using-
my normal RAM. But sure, I'm going to put that in. Endorse for doors.
Absolutely. Now, the difference about this conference, we're going to go through the fun things first, which are actually not that different. But then we're going to talk about what's different about doing it at your own location. Because this is the first time we've done it at our own location. We've always gone to another stadium. In front of me, Dan, we have tickets. If you, these are basically, if you're listening to the podcast, it's a ticket that you get from one of those arcade machines where you can redeem them for prizes, little cardboard tickets.
Correct. We got a lot of these made. You don't have to make them yourself.
No.
But we, as in, like, you can just buy them from on Amazon and places like that, just like different colors. But we got Kidsong tickets made up, which is kind
Printed Kidsong on one side and Max and Melody
Melody
and
on the
Mascots on the other.
We didn't put the year on that because we learnt you never put years on stuff, because we bought 1 million of these 5 years ago, and we're halfway through.
Now, those tickets, Dan, are redeemable for points.
Yes. Now
And
this I can speak into this.
You can,
this
because
is-
it's the only
this is-
thing you
this
can
is the-
speak
this
into,
is
really.
my domain. In kids ministry, youth ministry, for many years, people would do the whole points, and they would thought the only thing you could do is get more and more points. So on the first day, it's like, hey, 5,000 points to this team, 8,000 points to this team, and then like within 20 minutes, it's like 400 million points to this team, 800 million points to this team, and then the woos get lower and lower. We didn't want that, so we actually developed a system where we physically give tickets to the hand, and the tickets represent points. This year in our storyline, we have a storyline where the points value go up and down, but
That is fascinating. Like the stock market,
that's the stock
where
market.
literally one ticket could be worth at its minimum, I'm going to say 12,
Yeah.
and its maximum, what's the maximum this week?
The highest it's been to is about 150.
So one ticket for 150 points. Now, our kids then want to lock in their points. You want to trade your tickets for points at a good exchange rate. So
Exactly.
we're really teaching them about the stock market.
Exactly. But the cool thing is, instead of saying to a kid, you've won 10,000 points, it means nothing to them if they actually get tickets. The expression on kids' faces where they've got tickets, because not only does that mean that they've got something,
Physical.
but they can show to their friends that helps their tribe get more points, level up, which is something, a mechanic that we have, and then potentially win Kidsong. It's a really unifying thing to do. So that's why we
and
give tickets.
so the kids don't even know how many points they've got. Because it
Doesn't
doesn't really matter. In the past, you'd have a points tally. You go, 100 million points to this team, 147 million points. But it becomes meaningless at some point. So we said, well, let's not even do that. And so Dan just keeps, Funny Man Dan and his character just keeps leveling up the kids, because sometimes if you get enough points, you'll level up. What level are you going to? It doesn't matter. How many points do you have to get there? Well, it doesn't really matter. The point is the moment it happens is always the important part. And so, but Dan...
Yes.
Once a tribe, there are only 2 tribes at Kidsong this year, Honor Red and Blue Valor.
Yep.
They are competing against each other, but again, it's a kind of a loose. You can be over competitive with these things. We encourage no booing. We say that because if you see kids booing, you immediately have tickets to the other tribe, and that weeds it out pretty quickly.
Yes, definitely.
We've had a bit of trouble this year, though, Dan. There was a bit more booing than we expected.
Today it's gone.
It's gone today.
Yeah.
So day 2.
I feel like they're getting more into it.
They're great.
Don't quite know what to do 2 years on.
So now, Dan, when you level up enough times, which doesn't really matter, but I'm sure you know, you can win a what?
So the best thing about what we call story is the kids are the heroes of this game, of the story. So they're winning tickets. Everything they do, if they win tickets, right, they give them to their champion. The champion puts in the tick machine. It levels up. They've helped their tribe go to another level. And when they get level, it gets them to do something in the game. This year's mechanic is very simple. They're going to guess a number between 0 and 9. And then if they get the correct number, they're going to win a star.
Yep.
One of these things. 3 stars, they win Kidsong. Wow. Very, very simple game. But the great thing about it is, we don't know who's going to level up. We don't know what's happening because it all depends on the kids.
Yeah.
And the more they get into, the more fun there is. So it's really exciting. As of right now, we're in day 1. Conference 1.
Day
2. Day 3.
3? It is final day.
We've got one more session. Both teams are on 2 stars, and they're going to be competing for the final star tonight.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But the main thing is it's a lot of fun. We're giving them a shared experience.
100%.
It's giving them that links in the whole conference, which is what's
I like to think about theming a little bit like if you're playing a video game, right? Yep. A lot of theming is basically you theme your VBS, your conference, whatever you're doing with your kids ministry. It's like the cover artwork, and then they think, "Oh, we've themed it. We've done everything we need to do." Really, what our theming, I actually more focus on the game mechanics inside the game.
Correct.
That's really the theme that you're creating there. It's not just artwork or a style or a logo. That's not a theme. I think for me, it's not the artwork of the video game. It's the video game itself, and it's the mechanics of your conference. How does it all work? How do kids get involved in the story, not just observe the story and look at the pretty artwork from the outside? And I think it's a pretty good little metaphor. I like that game theory, Dan. It's a game theory.
Now, I'm very glad we've got Beci here because Beci, for years in Kidsong, has run a creative team and has all those experience. But this year, it's very different because Beci is now the head honcho,
the big kahuna,
Uno,
the top dog,
the chief camembert. You now have to go all over every single part of Kidsong. How has that experience been?
I'm really blessed to have come on in my new role with some really great key people to work with.
Oh, thanks.
And to bounce off.
Yeah, thanks, Beci.
And so I feel,
Didn't know you were going to say
I'm
that.
definitely not riding solo. I'm not on my own. We've got an incredible events team who are just incredible.
Oh, yes.
Very good.
Coming up in a future episode, we're going to be talking hopefully with some of our logistics and events people. I know that sounds boring, but I promise you.
Oh,
No,
it's
honestly.
definitely not boring.
No.
I think kind of the way I've been talking about it, like when we do a conference like this, so Kidsong is like it's a table at conference, the Kidsong table, and it's almost like events and logistics. They've got the legs ready, and then we've all kind of put the table on, and now we all have put the things that need to go on the table. So events and logistics are incredible, and they've they're always the first to start and the last to finish it up. So we're very grateful for everything they bring.
I actually am excited to talk to our team doing events, because we do a lot of specific logistical things to reduce the workload on our pastors around the country and in a sense around the world. So centralized support where the individual kids pastors at our locations around wherever they are can more focus on their kids rather than the bits and bobs of ministry.
Would you like a really great example?
Yes,
as
please.
in live in the moment
Do
example.
it. That's what we're here for.
So we started conference on Monday, and last week, as you guys would be aware, the weather in Sydney took a drastic turn and has been terrible. And pretty much has been some of the worst rain and flooding, because we had a beautiful outdoor festival. Our events team have been planning it for months. And he's like, you know what, the weather's going to be so bad. What would you think about if we cancelled the outdoor festival, used that budget wisely, save church some money, because we definitely will not be able to use it, move it inside to a car park in the faith that we can make a car park beautiful. And so we pivoted. And the team pivoted, and they've been incredible, and it's turned out to be the best decision we could have made. And then we saved church money, and so that they just bring in that whole thinking through all the stuff that my brain potentially wouldn't have the chance to think about.
I got some feedback today from one of my team. They said, I vote for this every year.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
It's like a pivot that we weren't expecting, and it's turned out to be brilliant. But if our events team hadn't picked that up or thought it through, it's been a game changer.
I've got a question for Becky and for you, David. A lot of people would be on our team would be in a situation where this is the first year they're doing events. Again, they might have the first Christmas event coming up. They might have the summer event for our friends in the Northern Hemisphere. And they're getting back into doing something they've done years before but had maybe 2-3 years off. What are some advice you could give to them how to dust off the cobwebs and get back into it?
Well, I can give you a real life situation
I would
if you
love
would like that.
Yes, please. Well, I'd prefer you didn't make it up.
Well, we did a summer camp in January, our first summer camp in a couple of years, and we learnt the really hard way that you should remind your leaders before doing a camp, child safety procedures, policies, how to work with kids, because we'd only started church like 2 months, not even 2 months before, came to camp, and our leaders were very fresh and green, and they did absolutely incredible, and it was the best experiences ever. But we were able to learn from summer camp how to make it an even more greater experience for conference. So we sent a training video.
Yep.
We made sure we communicated really well. We made sure that they were up to date on everything they needed to be up to date with. So we have tried really hard to make sure we've been really accessible to leaders if they have questions, really intentional on the different communication we've given them. So it's been really intentional and strategic. And it's made a massive difference. Our team have come in actually quite confident to Kidsong, which has been really cool.
So don't neglect the basics. Anything from you, David?
What was the question?
The question was, how do you dust off the cobwebs and start doing events
that's
again?
I don't know. When I got here, I literally the first night, the kids are walking in, and I thought, I don't know if I can remember how to do this.
So
literally thought
we all
that.
felt a bit rusty, and then the
Felt a bit rusty. Well,
kids
then
entered into the room, and within 1 minute, we were all like, oh yeah.
And they were into it as normal. Like, okay.
So, yeah.
Because it's these kids. Here's the thing: with 2 years of not doing maybe big events like this, there's a whole group of new kids keep coming and growing and coming past. So when you're in a ministry like children, where you see from 0 to 12, but then they miss 2 years, and they can double in size.
Wow.
So that was I think it was just doing it, trusting that you haven't forgotten. Because I honestly thought I was going to mess it up, but I did my message the first night, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember how to do this.
The other thing we did too, which was for the sake of our volunteers, is each area had a team leader. So it wasn't like there was one person having to communicate with all the different areas and all the different age groups about what they needed to know. Like parenting rooms, it was specific to them, and then preschool and funhouse. 3 to 5s, 5s to 7s, 8 to 12s, etc., etc. They could liaise and and bring their volunteers for their certain area up to speed, which was really helpful because then they could give them the specifics of their age group. So it was awesome.
There's another thing we're going to talk about now, which is trading cards.
Yay, they're so good.
By the way, Chelsea, who's pushing buttons for us back here, can you try number 4? Chelsea, I think number 4. Oh, look at that.
Yay.
Look at this. If you're watching, I'm holding up trading cards. Becky, hold up one for me. There we go. In front of Terry the Triceratops. Hey, so we've got 9 cards this year, and our trading cards are, look how professional we are. Here's
I love you.
very simple. And again, you print them with a business card printer. Because you can get business cards printed very cheaply.
Yeah.
So at a certain, whatever level your budget is, you can get trading cards printed. We get 9 of them. We don't release them all at once. We release them slowly on the first day, a few of them, a few more. So you don't have one kid getting the whole set in the first 5 minutes.
The other thing we've started doing is we introduced a trader this year. So there's a dedicated person that is has unlimited supply of cards, and he's trading some of the rare ones that have been released for other things.
He's leaking them into circulation.
So when a kid they're trying to get as many cards that they need to use as kind of like currency. There's a lot of trading going on, I realise this. But
they're going to get out of this and go, the Reserve Bank just raised rates by 50 basis points.
Oof.
What are we going to do with my mortgage? Before we move on to our next topic.
Can I just jump on that?
Please do.
Just say how important traditions are.
Go on.
Because traditions, you get to build off what's previously been done.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we do trading cards, and we do it every year, and we'll drop it if we need to drop it. But it's pretty amazing that kids will we'll see adults that were kids, and they remember their sets of trading cards. Older brothers and sisters are talking to kids, going, "Oh, Kidsong's gonna be great." They do trading cards there. We also do a little thing called the 3 Ts every year, which there'll be a link in the description.
Correct.
It's a song that they all learn. But it's just this stuff that kind of adds personality and builds culture, and is also very, very simple to do.
I'm going to play the video right now in the middle of this episode.
2022 3T.
Let's go! If you want to learn the T's, here's a little history. Every year we write a song.
We challenge you to memorize. We're not going to be surprised. Most of you will get it wrong.
No matter where you go, you simply need to know the information in this rhyme.
If you're feeling like you don't know if you're coming or you're going, happens to us all the time. But
Great dancing, David.
Thank you very much. Here's our most famous story about trading cards, which we need to tell before we move on.
Very good.
This one year, the winning tribe, Dan, we had many tribes, but the winning tribe was going to win a special one-off trading card, the number 12 or 11, I think it was.
This is before I took over tribes.
Are you disclaiming yourself from this whole story?
Yes, I had nothing to do with it. I was a volunteer, and I had nothing to do with it.
So one of our team, who shall remain Nathan,
who shall remain Nathan,
he buried the trading cards.
Brilliant! What a clever idea!
What a great idea! And at the end of the conference, the winning tribe would walk over with Nathan. He would dig them up because there's a treasure map.
A couple hundred kids. Yeah.
He would win the map and he would find the trading cards. So off we walked with the shovel with the children. I don't know how many kids were in that tribe. I'm going to say a couple of hundred. And walked over there, and he proceeded to dig holes all over that conference and couldn't find where he'd buried the trading cards.
Amazing.
They're still there.
They're still there about 15 years later, I believe. So you can do a lot of fun things with trading cards, is my point.
Well, I would love to chat about how to create a worship space in the middle of conference.
Okay.
Because we've had some pretty amazing times over the years of where kids wouldn't stop worshiping, and we were able to minister to them in a way that we wouldn't normally get to do on a weekend, or sometimes not even
Well, I figured it out.
An event.
We do 20 weeks of church in one conference. So kids are with us for 20 weeks, equivalent to 20 weeks of church. So this one, I actually figured it out. In saying that, like the first night we did it, maybe the first night, the kids wouldn't stop singing again. It was beautiful. They were singing, "I Could Sing of You." We went old school. Yeah. "I Could Sing of Your Love Forever."
And they sang it forever.
They sang it forever.
That's very great.
I actually was like, let him go. And then I wanted to speak. And okay, so you got to time it.
Yeah.
You got to jump in there before they loop around again. But it's that moment where they actually, in conferences, and this is more than weekend services because of the time and the everything that they're with us for, it's almost easier to get that level of engagement because you're winning with them the whole time. And one thought, and this is what's different, Dan, about this conference to our previous conferences. In our previous conferences at a off-site location, a giant stadium with a couple of smaller rooms inside the stadium where we have to do Kidsong at nights, there are so many kids in that room and there's so much pressure and there's so much going on. They've been with us all day. We have sleep corners. We have kids going crazy. We have kids kind of tired. We have the whole range of emotion experience. We have to stack this rally, this night service with just as much stuff as possible. And there was no option for us to just chill out. But here at conference, we can say, look at the needs of the children. Yeah. Let's design something that they've been with us all day, they've been picked up with their parents, had dinner, and come back and hanging out with us at the night. What do we do to engage them in the best way possible for worship? And we talked about it before conference, and I was like, well, we don't need to do 2 hours, 3 hours of whatever. We can just condense everything back because we have space in our buildings to move them to other locations and do a different activities, maybe literally if they need it, a sleep room if we need it. But I actually don't think there is a sleep room this conference, is there? No. So that's the difference is the...
Oh, yes, it's in the leaders area.
The leaders room has a corner for sleeping, but I haven't seen many people sleeping because it's a far more... It's just a situational leadership thing where the location and the situation we find ourselves in enables us to create a much more worshipful environment, maybe. But it's because we've compacted it, Becky. So what do they look like at nights at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's been really amazing. Obviously, we always think about timing, like what's the best time to do them. Like we've got rallies for little ones, so it's better to do them as soon as possible so that they can then just chill after that. And then with our older ones, we start off with our storyline time with the storyline team.
Yes.
And they've been incredible, and that's just been so fun. It's almost like back in the day, we would almost do the rally and then finish off ramping the kids up, and we've kind of switched it, haven't we? And then Dave just had this really amazing concept of, how about we start off with the preacher, go into worship and really use the nights to minister to the kids and see what happens. So I would say that the run sheets are the most bare run sheets we've ever had, but it's probably been the most significant, some of the most significant rallies we've had, and it's been beautiful. And so the preacher would, and it's been more, kind of a thought, a story around our whole theme is draw near to God, Holy Spirit. So the preachers have been kind of talking about, this is my experience with the Holy Spirit and what I've learned, sharing that with the kids, making it personal, going into this worship time. And then obviously we'll have our media in there. We might play the 3 T's or we might play our big word, but it's almost like we've got everything ready to go. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And then we'd even talked about if the kids are too tired, then let's not do a huge praise, getting the kids all going. But it's actually worked out perfect, and we've been finishing off with praise parties, and it's actually been a massive win. So I feel like this year we just went, let's not try and recreate what we've done in the past. We've got a blank canvas. Let's try something new. And Dave really is just led so well by the Spirit and things like this. So we'll always come to Dave, and he'll always change everything. And I learned a lesson. Don't meet with Dave Friday 4:00 before conference starting on Monday at 4:00. Because he will flip everything, and we had to change all our run sheets.
No, you're
but it was all worth it, and it's made. But I always know Dave will always be right.
Well, there's no
circumstance.
I will always have
Dave's timing's very similar to God's.
Yeah,
frustratingly close.
Frustratingly close.
I do it for me. It's that. Okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's the purposeful. We don't have to do what we always have done, and we don't have. You just look at, and I think sometimes we miss that, and sometimes we have to miss that because in a giant conference in a location we don't know, you've just kind of got to do whatever you have to do to survive. But in this one, it's going, okay, what do our kids need in this moment? And you start with that, and you don't. There's not like no rule in our church world, especially working with the kids. There are no rules. You don't have to go to a board of overseers to approve a run sheet. You can just do what you think these kids need in this moment. And so one of the important things we did, Dan, is separate, and we've talked about this before, I think, but we don't story time, which is the game, fun, story, points, tickets, extravaganza. Kids are getting into it. They're competing. That's separate from our rallies. Yeah. We don't combine that. We don't start off with a game and then try and go into praise and worship. No, those are literally 2 different events that happen at different times during the day.
Yeah, that's been
And that was
such a
deliberate
win.
because Dan drives them insane, and then we want to drive them to the Lord. So,
Because then what I was able to do is get what's happening in Dave's head and then share that why in big picture with the creative team. And so rather than them all freaking out, why aren't we doing it how we always do it? It was like, oh, okay, we've got the big picture, we've got the why. Let's try it and see how it goes. And we did. And then we all knew that maybe it won't work, maybe it will. If we have to change the run sheets, that's okay. We all just held it really loosely. But I was able to communicate a really strong why and big picture. And that's really important with any event that you're running or any, if you can give that, communicate it in a really clear and concise, intentional way where the team buy in and feel like they're a part of the idea. It just makes it a massive win. And our creative team have been incredible. They've jumped on board and been willing to try out everything.
Yep, it's we're all there for the same reason, and we keep our eyes focused on what the kids need, what your audience needs. Just keep coming back to that. Okay, well, it's because in the past it's just been sometimes impossible to do what we wanted to do, but for this year we've been able to do everything we wanted to do, and there's no pressure of transitions this year. We send 100 kids out of a room. I don't have to wait for somebody to be 4 people in a chain to be ready because it's just all right, guys, off you go. And that's I've noticed this year.
Yeah.
Today, just coming before this thing, we finished Dan's story time, and I immediately was like, I don't have to wait. There's no one to wait for. All right, kids, this K1-2, kindergarten 1-2, our fun houses. You guys are going to go that way, and you guys are going to go that way. I did mess it up still, but it wasn't my fault. Liz told me the wrong directions.
Sure, she did.
And but that was amazing because those transitions sometimes we were waiting for someone to be ready, to another person to be ready on this chain of command because they've all got security and safety and blah blah blah. We're in a room. It's lovely. That's the end of the podcast. I want to thank everybody
So
for joining us. Wow. We have got so much more coming up in the future. Dan, Funny Man Dan, I'd like you to leave us with a parting proverb.
A proverb, eh? I've got one here. It says, a man who stores stones in his heart is due for rocky times.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us. We'll see you next time on The Vault.